Hi, and welcome to this demonstration video on how to use the IRS Tax Withholding Estimator, which can be found at irs.gov/W4APP. When the landing page opens, you'll see the Before You Begin box that recommends you have your most recent pay stubs handy, along with information for any other sources of income and your latest tax returns. Also ensure to use the whole dollar amounts in the estimator. Now let's get started by clicking the Use the Tax Withholding Estimator button here in the middle of the screen. Once the estimator screen displays, you'll see you're on Step 1, About You, and at the top is a legend with 5 other steps before I get to see my results. Please note that any information entered in this video is made up and for demonstration purposes only. Please follow along using your own information. Depending on how you answer this tax estimator's questions will cause additional qualifying questions to appear below or on following screens. Also note that many of the questions are notated as required in red text, and to the right of some questions is a help tip displayed as a question mark icon, which provides additional information regarding that question. To begin, you want to select the filing status that you expect to use for the upcoming tax filing season. For me, I'm going to select Married, Filing Jointly. You'll now notice that additional questions are displayed. Next, I'll select if somebody else can claim me as a dependent on his or her tax return. In my case, I'll select No. Then scrolling down, I'll need to select if I plan on claiming any other dependents on my tax return. In this case, I'm going to select Yes, and in the next field that's displayed, I'm going to click the drop-down and choose 2. The next question is based on income and asks if either I or my spouse will hold the job this year with paychecks that'll have federal tax regularly withheld. Again, I'm going to select Yes. Then it wants to know how many jobs we plan to hold throughout the year. First, for me, I'll select 1, and for my spouse, I'll also select 1. The next question asks if we'll receive a pension this year. In my case, I'm going to select No to this one. In the 5th question, it asks about additional sources of income and tax payments I expect to have throughout the year. In my case, I will select that my spouse will collect unemployment compensation, and I'll select that I earned net income from self-employment. Please click on all the boxes that relates to your circumstance. Note, selecting these options will make additional questions appear on following screens. Finally, at the bottom, for demographics, select if you or your spouse will be 65 or older or are blind. In my case, none of these relate, so I'll just click on the Next button here at the bottom left. Step 2, Income and Withholding. The first section is about my job and asks if I expect to hold it for the entire year. In my case, I do expect to, so I'll select Yes. Then I need to answer how frequently I am paid. On the drop-down, there's weekly, every 2 weeks, twice monthly, or once a month. I'll select every 2 weeks. Next, it wants to know what date did my most recent pay period end. If I click in the field, a calendar will display, or I can enter in the date manually. Now you'll see additional questions have appeared. So scrolling down, next I'll enter the total wages that I expect to receive this year. Next, I'm asked to enter any bonuses that I've received this year, or that I expect to receive later on this year. In my case, I'm going to leave these blank. However, if you are expecting to receive a bonus later in the year, and your employer does take out taxes from your bonuses, you'll want to select this box here underneath. Next, using my latest pay statement, I'll need to enter my total federal taxes withheld to date, and what my total federal tax withheld was in my recent pay statement. Finally, it wants to know if I've contributed to a tax-deferred retirement plan, or an HSA or FSA or other pre-tax plan. In my case, I'll select No for both. Next, I need to enter in my spouse's job information. To do so, click on the plus sign to the left to expand it. As it did before, it wants to know if my spouse will have held the job all year long. In this case, I'm going to select No. Then I'll enter the date range that my spouse either worked or will work throughout the year. As before, I'll enter in the frequency every 2 weeks, and then I'll have to enter in estimated amounts until they actually begin their job. Again, because of how I answered previously, I need to enter in my spouse's total estimated unemployment compensation for the year, then any estimated federal income tax withheld from unemployment, then for myself, my expected net self-employment income, and any estimated federal income tax payments I've made toward my self-employment income. Now that I've completed all these entries, I can click on the next button here at the bottom. Step 3 is about adjustments to income. You can choose to see adjustments here to check if anything applies to you. If it doesn't, then simply go to the next step. In my case, I have no adjustments. I'll simply click on Go to Next Step, and then click on the next button below, which now takes me to Step 4, Deductions. The description here notes that I qualify for the standard deduction based on my filing status. Most taxpayers take the standard deduction, but if you'd like to itemize, click on the Itemize Deductions and then fill out these fields. If your itemized deductions are less than the standard deduction, then the calculator will automatically use the standard deduction in your results. In my case, I'm just simply going to take the standard deduction and then click the next button to proceed to Step 5. And in Step 5, I can choose to see any tax credits here and then enter anything in that applies to me. However, if none of these credits apply to you, then simply select Get My Results without tax credits and then click the next button. On the results page, the estimated overpayment shows the amount of my estimated refund, assuming that nothing changes throughout the year. However, once my spouse begins their job, I'll want to run this estimator again and enter in their actual amounts for pay and withholdings to get a more accurate result. If you scroll down, you'll see that there's a slider bar here in the middle of the screen. If you want less of a refund at the end of the year or more of a refund at the end of the year, you can slide the slider either to the left for less of a refund or to the right for more of a refund, and then below will display what adjustments you should make to either your or your spouse's W4 by clicking on the plus sign on either one. Scrolling down to the bottom, you'll find a detailed table with a summary of all your inputs and calculations. You can expand or minimize any of these sections as you please. You can also make edits to any of these sections. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can also go back, start the form all over, or you can print this page for a record of your inputs. We highly recommend you check out the frequently asked questions for any questions and concerns regarding your results or withholding recommendations. Thanks for watching.